Yo neighbors, Baldy Locks Reviews, G.I. Joe Classified Series number 119, Ferret. You know what? Everybody's reviewed this. I have an idea. We'll come back to this. Let's look at something else today. So to be honest with you, I don't just collect G.I. Joe Classified. I collect McFarlane. I collect Legends. I have some Mezco. So let's switch it up. We'll come back to the Ferret. And let's take a look at McFarlane's DC Multiverse, Batman vs. Bane, Knightfall. This 2-pack, it's kind of a big box here, but anyway, this 2-pack is based on the Knightfall storyline that ran in 1993 to 1994. Let's pop these two open, take a look, see if we can recreate the iconic breaking of the bat. Let's take a look. McFarlane's DC Multiverse, Batman vs. Bane, Knightfall Edition. Now, this is a big box, so let's just take a quick peek at the box, get an idea of what we're looking at here, what comic storyline it's from, sort of compare it to the previous Bane that McFarlane released last year, compare Batman to Batman Year 2, and ultimately see if we can recreate the Jim Aparo artwork of the famous scene where Bane breaks the bat. So right away, we're looking at a whole new box here. They actually did a really nice job with this box because they have actually slimmed it down. You get the artwork on the back. This is the famous Kelly Jones cover art. This graced the cover of issue 497, chapter 11 in the Knightfall storyline. I believe there were 19 chapters altogether, and I'm not including Night Quest or Night's End. I'm just talking about Knightfall. And when most people saw this 2-pack announced, a lot of people were expecting Bane to look a little bit more like this instead of this comic book interpretation. This is from the inside splash page where Bane breaks Batman. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not sure most people do this, but I never opened my Bane from last year. I only got one of that figure. I was kind of torn with his look. I actually think I like this look better. But let's compare the two box sizes, because if you're an in-box collector, you're going to see that they did a really nice job kind of doing a lower profile with a mega fig and a standard Batman figure. Like, this thing is almost smaller, technically, than the mega fig. So this is how Bane appeared last year on shelves. And you can see the box is almost the same size. You have a lower profile and it's a little bit shorter, but it is wider. You know what? Let's just put the two artworks next to each other. This box is definitely wider, but again, it's got the lower profile. It's not as deep, and they did a nice job kind of showcasing the two figures here. Now, you'll have to take my word for it or see another review, but these two Bane figures are basically the same figure. Now, you can see that the head sculpt is a little bit different, and I will zoom in once I get these two out. But really, the two noted differences are that there's the paint scheme is a little bit different. They removed this harness, belt buckle type of thing. The head's different. The tubes for the Venom are a little bit different. And this one is definitely more inspired by the Jim Aparo artwork. And I imagine I'll get some flack for that, for not actually comparing the two Banes right next to each other. I'll try and figure something out with the photos once I take this Bane out. But that Bane looks cool sitting on my shelf just as it is. I'm not opening it up, or at least I'm not planning to. I don't know. If I get enough comments or enough likes, I'll open it and I'll compare the two. I'm not even sure if any of my subscribers are going to like me looking at McFarlane stuff. The weird thing about McFarlane is a lot of great figures, a lot of deep cut characters, but the dude makes fun of Rob Liefeld not being able to draw feet, and his figures' proportions are all over the place. But you know what? That's their fight. Whatever. Let's get these guys open. And man, these are nice looking figures. It really kind of captures that comic book style artwork. Really nice paint apps on here. Yes, Batman's face looks a little effed up. It almost looks like he fell out of the ugly tree or the ugly Batcave. But let's get them out and take a closer look. I do like how McFarlane includes this kind of artwork in the back. I'm a big fan of the artwork. This is a nice throwback to Batman's cave, the Batcave. You get the famous dinosaur, the Joker card that's hanging there, the trophy cases. Is the coin in there? Yeah. How did I miss that? It's huge. But it's a nice throwback to famous depictions of the Batcave throughout the comic book series. And I imagine people a little more creative than me can make some really good use out of this as far as a diorama goes. Oh, and look, there's some card art in here. This plastic's making a lot of noise. Let's just get them out. That's a big boy. That is Bane. They really got him in here. As you can see, they both stand well on their own without any stands. But we do have the two standard DC McFarlane action figure bases that he includes with all his figures. We also have a Batarang, a couple sets of hands for Batman, and 2 more hands for Bane. And again, the card art on the back. You know what? I'm not even going to take these stands out. I never use them anyway. And then here's your card art. It's the cover art by Kelly Jones. Again, I think it's cool that they used this because it's the famous cover art from Batman 497. But the figure, both Batman and Bane, are based on the artwork, the interior art by Jim Aparo. But I wasn't really thinking you get a total of 6 hands for Batman. So you get these hands. This is like the Todd McFarlane arthritic hands. But this would be like his grappling hands. You get his closed fist hands. And I imagine these will work with other figures. His trusty Batarang. And then you get these massive fists for Bane. And for the most part, I don't really switch these things out unless I'm doing some photography. But it is a really nice addition. It'll help you switch up your display or your photography. Now, let's take a look at Batman. I really do like now that McFarlane is including these wired capes. It's, you know what, let me just compare this to Batman Year 2. He also came with a cloth cape, but there is no wire in here, which would have been really nice because this is a badass version of Batman based on McFarlane's artwork and McFarlane's hands, but definitely not his body. So here is Batman versus Batman Year 2. I actually thought they were the same buck, but they are not. So let's just put this Batman aside. Oh, and you know what? Did anyone have the issues with the arms? I never had that issue with my Year 2. I actually think that it was kind of blown out of proportion, but I never experienced that issue of the broken arms. This has been one of my favorite Batman figures that McFarlane had produced. But back to this Batman. So you get this ugly mug of a Batman. But you know what? It really does kind of work. When you put this up on a shelf or you put this in your display, you're not going to notice that it almost has like a flat profile, but it doesn't at the same time. I think they just have a wider face on this one. And in hand, it actually looks a lot better than I think pictures do justice for it. Does that make sense? The pictures don't do justice for it. It looks better in hand. And I think they really did a nice job kind of making it look like comic book art lines. He's got battle damage throughout his costume, rips and tears, really just the blood around the mouth. Yeah, I'm not seeing blood anywhere else on the figure. Moves pretty standard. I think McFarlane figures actually have decent articulation. It's not great. I mean, I know a lot of people make fun of McFarlane figures. I like them. He's got decent posability. It's kind of what you would expect from a McFarlane figure. The pins are a little bit annoying, especially when you have newer figures with pinless joints. But he's got articulation out the bat ass. But he's a really decent looking Batman, and I love the addition of the wired cape here. Now, it's a little curved. That's what she said. But let me see if I can get that classic kind of Batwing, Bat cape look. I pulled his hand off. But yeah, it's pretty decent. They did a nice job cutting this cloth. I do like the kind of shine that it has on the cape. I think most people are going to be a little more happy with this Batman than they think. Those product photos don't really do it justice. But again, I want this to be a quick review. I want to just see if I can get that classic breaking of the bat look. So now let's take a look at Bane. Bane is a hulking monster. They did a really nice job with this mold. I like how they kind of just made it capture that Jim Aparo artwork. It looks like the ink. It looks like it jumps right off of the comic book page. And for a big figure, he's got decent articulation. I mean, it's not great, but he's a big dude. There's enough slack here for his Venom. I guess it's a tube, but there's definitely enough slack that it can move around with the figure as you're posing. Again, both sides, his arms only go to kind of a certain degree here. That's about it in the arm for articulation. Again, it's the same as the Bane that we got last year. Bane does do a full split. I know A Punk with Toys does this with every review, but he does get his Van Damme one. I don't think any McFarlane figures have the drop-down hips, but for a big guy, he's got some nice articulation, something that you would see in a ballerina, and I imagine that we could get him into a decent breakdance pose. But take a look at this updated sculpt for Bane. Again, it kind of pops right out of the comic book page. I really think they did a nice job with this Bane. They got the hair. The hair is a big thing in the picture. They got that stylized comic book kind of bluish line art. I think most people that get this Bane are going to be very happy with it. But ultimately, I want to see if I can break the bat. Oh, real quick. It looks like the hands are almost the same design. They both have that kind of ball joint, but the peg is different, so it doesn't actually fit. I was kind of hoping that it would because it would give people more options, but the hands are a little bit different. And also, the necks are different. You're not going to be able to swap out this cape. That cape is in there underneath the cowl, and the neck is, like I said, a little bit different. But that's enough comparison. Let's break the bat. All right, so before I even pose Bane up, I'm going to take the cape and kind of push it together so that we can get Batman's body over Bane's knee. So if we go off the interior artwork, Bane is really up on his left leg with his right knee going into Batman's back. So I may need that stand after all. Let's see. So I think I got Batman pretty close to his final pose here. Now let's see if we can get Bane to hold him. Now remember, this is a little bit rushed, but I feel like probably somebody out there better than me is going to be very happy with how this poses. Fingers crossed. All right, so is it possible? Yes. Is it quick? No. Somebody will be able to do a much better job than me. That's kind of what sucks about McFarlane figures. They're not that easy to pose without spending a ton of time on it. You probably need a flight stand or something like that to kind of support this, but I do think it's possible. Maybe, like I said, flight stand, some modifications, but you will be able to kind of emulate that famous scene and break the bat. And he'll stand, but he looks goofy like this. Stand long. Overall, though, I will say, I am happy with the look of the figures. You're going to like this Batman a little bit more in hand. You definitely have to spend time if you're going to set up or recreate this scene. I'm going to try it again, see if I can get a picture of it. But if I don't have a picture at the end of the video, it's because I wasn't able to do it. Let's just get these guys up on a Lazy Susan. See if I can get the pose down. I have a feeling I won't. Doesn't mean that you can't, but that is McFarlane for you. Let me know in the comments what you think. Tell me what I could have done better. Like, subscribe. Let me know if you want to see other things outside of G.I. Joe. And thanks again for watching. Don't forget, grow up, play with your toys, and go hug somebody. Thanks. So just real quick, I think I was going a little too comic book accurate with having him stand on his one leg. You can definitely get him into a kneel down position, which is probably a little more easier for most of us to get. This actually looks a lot better. So you can kind of emulate this pose. I'll get this going on the Lazy Susan. I probably shouldn't have expected it to stand on one foot. But again, somebody out there a little bit better at posing than I am will likely be able to get that accurate shot. But for the rest of us, get them down on one knee and you've got the pose. And this is a little closer to what Kelly Jones did in the cover art.